So,
That's bad, yeah.
Grammy Mary is making my favorite meal, stuffed flank steak. And it cooks within a nice broth. So, Grammy, what's in the pot?
Well, already in the pot, we started with some stuffed chicken thighs that already had the filling in that I had made and put in the freezer, because you can just keep them and use them as you need them. Today I'm going to keep them in the soup to make some of the richness of the broth. Otherwise you can bake them in the oven. They'll be just as delicious, which we might finish them off that way. Okay, they were in the pot and sauteed with 2 tablespoons of butter and about 2 tablespoons of olive oil. And they made a nice brown crust on the chicken thighs. Turn them over, do the same thing. Now they are stuffed with what I'm going to make now and stuffed into this beautiful flank steak that has a nice pocket ready to go. Okay, that makes the broth a very rich, yummy broth for soup, and then we eat the meat. At that point, I added carrots, celery, like 3 stalks of celery, 3 nice carrots, and 1 large onion. And at that point, I put 2 cubes of chicken bouillons and added about 6 quarts of water. And the broth got started. I washed my hands because I was touching meat. Okay. Now we're going to make the stuffing that goes inside the flank steak, which is exactly the same stuffing that's in the chicken thighs. Boneless, skinless chicken thighs. Okay, to the bowl we add portions of 1.5 pounds of pork, beef, and veal. I know this is pork, beef, and veal because of the colors of the meat. The pork has more white in it, which I'm going to add additional pork to it. Pork is just a more tender meat to cut off some of the beef and the veal to it. The veal is a nice lighter brown color. That's how I know it is real veal. Okay, those go in. That's to one side. And now, to this, I take the easy method before I chopped everything. Now I am just going to incorporate these 3 meats lightly. You don't want to overmix. Just lightly incorporate them before you start adding the rest of your ingredients. Now what I mean by taking the easier method, as with meatballs, this is the same thing you would do for meatballs, only you would add milk and bread. Okay, I have a handful of parsley, which I would say would be a 1/2 cup. 2 eggs and 1 egg yolk in here, and salt, pepper. To that I'm going to add 3 cloves of garlic. I have the spinach already chopped, so I don't have to put that in there. I have the cheese grated, so I don't have to put that in there. And now all we're going to do is blend this up real quickly. Now we're ready to put everything in. I want to put a little pepper, not a whole lot of pepper, just about 1/2 teaspoon, that's all, with it. And at the same time, I'm going to put a little bit into the broth. It will already have enough salt from the bouillon, so you don't want any additional salt. There is, however, some kosher salt mixed in here. Pour this into my blender, from my blender into my mixture, getting all my garlic out. If it's got tiny, tiny chunks, it really doesn't matter. It's all going into the pot to make the broth. Okay. To this, we add the chopped spinach. To that, we add about 1/2 cup of chopped spinach. Frozen. Use the frozen spinach. It's already done for you. Okay. Next, we're going to put in a nice cup full of Parmesan Parmigiano Reggiano. Okay, cheese. Okay, now we're ready. Very light mixing. Use my spatula when I want to move it inside, which I will show you. Okay, now we just incorporate lightly everything that's in here. Ready to put this in to our flank steak. And we're just going to start loading up the pocket. And when you make your pocket, you got to make sure you don't cut through the meat. It's happened, but as a precaution, I'm going to wrap the meat in a cheesecloth like I did with the chicken. That way, anything that escapes is still caught in there and you still get your flavor. So you just push it in. You can use your fork or you can use your spatula. Move it to the back so they can continue filling. You probably will have leftover meat. You can do one of two things. You can stuff another piece of meat with it, make meatball. It will make meatballs, or you can freeze it. Now that we have the stuffing in place, we're ready to seal this so we don't have it escape. So we use our skewers. Seal the opening, but then I'm also going to wrap it in cheesecloth. The best part, we think, is the ends that get all boiled together. And when you use the cheesecloth, it'll keep the filling from escaping. Remember my mother-in-law pressing this thing down tight when she made it. Okay. So it's got some thin areas, but once you put the cheesecloth, it's going to be fine. Flip it over, give it another press. Now we're ready to wrap it with cheesecloth. Nice healthy wrap here. Cover the whole thing with cheesecloth. And again, we will pin it down. This just is something I've learned through the years to keep it from escaping. And that way you can enjoy everything and it doesn't get loose in your broth. Dig in, because your meat is nice and pliable. Okay. Once this is done, we're ready to go. Okay, at this point, your broth should be boiling, which it is. We're going to need, afterwards, add a little more water after we bring it back up to a boil. Just insert your flank steak into your broth. Wipe up anything you spilled. Okay, looks good. When that comes back up to a boil, I'm going to add another pitcher of water. That's it. About 2.5 hours later, it should be done. The chicken, of course, is going to get done first. You can remove that. What I do is I take the chicken out, same stuffing, that's what has to get really cooked. I put it in a baking dish, finish it in the oven, and then when you take them out, you can make a little wine sauce with the drippings. It's delicious to pour over them. The meat itself comes out, and you let it rest. After it's rest, you slice it into thin pieces, and then you can see the meat and the flank steak all around it. It's beautiful. Tastes delicious. We serve it with drizzles of olive oil over top. Okay? Good luck. And it'll keep that flank steak nice and moist to serve. And then when we take all this cloth off, we're going to leave the skewers in the actual meat. Just like this, to let it rest. Now you might want to reheat it before you serve it if you're not going to serve it right away. You want it to rest a good 15 minutes for all that juices to go down in there. My mother-in-law at this point would lay something heavy on it and press it down, which is, you know, easy to do, just to press this down so that all the meat will come together. I like to let it rest first and then I will press it. As you can see, the juices are spilling out all over it. And that is what it looks like when it's finished.
Now here it is, my favorite meal finished. The beautiful meat of the flank steak surrounding the perfectly cooked filling. Just drizzle with olive oil and you've got the great dinner.
Smells
Thanks,
so good.
Grammy.
You're welcome.